So if you could, please introduce yourself and tell us about you. How long you've been in Norman, how long you've been working with costumes, kind of how you got started with costumes.
Well, I'm Jeanne Flannigan. I came to Norman with my 3 kids in 1974 from Tulsa, and I had learned how to sew well enough that I looked around for different kinds of sewing jobs, and the one that seemed like it would be the most lucrative and the easiest was to make go-go costumes. So I made go-go costumes for dancers in Tulsa for about 9 years before I moved to Norman, supported my kids with that. And so there was lots of fringe and sequins involved. And then I came here, and I was in the art department. I loved everything. I loved geology. I loved sociology. I loved all of the sciences, but I felt at home in the art department. I'd grown up as an artist. My dad was a painter, so that's kind of how I ended up here.
And then that got you started doing other costumes?
Well, when I arrived here, I was never going to do another costume. I had done costumes for 9 years. I dealt with all the mothers and the children and the, what have you, for the, with all these dancers. And I thought, well, I'll do video and film. So that's what I ended up doing in the art school. And we had a brand new video department where the video was reel-to-reel 5-inch tapes, on a little tape machine. Started out that way, and then we had I think some Fuji cameras, and it kind of gradually got into different higher tech things. And then I studied animation with an animator that was in the advertising. He had an advertising company here in Norman, and started doing animated TV commercials that were taped on video at Channel 9. And we did I guess 12 or so, when I was with him. He moved to California to go Hollywood, and but I really wanted to stay here. I'm an Air Force brat, so I moved around every 3 years or 4 years, of my life, and I wanted a hometown for my kids, and I chose Norman.
And then you had a store, a very popular store.
Yeah.
That I miss to this day, actually.
Oh.
How did all that start?
The Gulf War came along, and I was doing animated TV commercials at that time, and I lost 3 contracts. People were nervous about the economy, and these are expensive to produce, and so they just got cold feet, and I thought, well, what should we do? And my kids, who were teenagers at the time, they said, well, we've got plenty of costumes and all kinds of headdresses that we've made and this and that, so let's do costumes for Halloween. I had an art studio downtown in that building, in the same building. And so we put costumes on a little rack from Target, this far apart, and so we had 30 costumes or something. We rented everything, we sold everything, and I said, well, let's get a business license, we're in business. So that's how it started.
Well, a lot of people are glad you did that.
In '89, yeah.
And how long did you have the store?
About 7 years, 7.5 years.
Well, that was a fun place. So the museum here, we're about to celebrate 25th anniversary.
Yeah.
Yes. There was tremendous grassroots support, as you remember, from the community and the state to have this new building that would store the archives and tell the stories.
Oh, yeah.
How were you involved with what was going on all around you at that time?
Well, at that time, I had started the Mardi Gras parade, and I was still the director of the Christmas parade. I was director of the Christmas parade for 10 years. So I had these kind of seasonal things, and Roberta Pales called me. I had met her probably coming into the shop to rent something. But she was so much fun, such a great spirit, you know. She just passed away recently, so. But she was very creative in many, many ways, and just an open thinker, you know. And so she wanted a costume, a mascot costume, and she wanted it to be very durable. She wanted it to be something that could be used in parades on the street, and then in smaller areas and at the zoo or wherever. And so we put our heads together, and a raptor came out of the discussion. And so I had to figure out how to put a human being inside a raptor costume.
So what do you think, how important do you think it is? You know, you've had this discussion about Roberta coming in, the impression that made. How important do you think it is for a community-based institution like a museum to have a mascot?
Well, I think almost people expect it. They expect a sports team to have a mascot, and they expect the Olympics to have a mascot. And so an institution like this, you know, you have to have this creature that's saying, come this way with me. We're going to have fun now. And to appear with in the parades, it was quite a spectacular thing to have this giant raptor in the
Do you have
parade.
a favorite memory of Spike or Slash in a parade?
Not in a parade per se. I remember one time we had, I can't remember where we were, but Slash had to go up some steps, and his feet are like this. And if you've ever worn a chicken costume with the big feet, you know that you have to lift them like this over. And so whoever was wearing the Slash costume was like, I don't know if we could do the stairs. So I think he did kind of a sideways shuffle up the stairs to this whatever event it was. But it, you know, he was in pretty high demand for a while. He was pretty spectacular. And
you do have to adjust how you do things when you're in those costumes.
Oh, yeah.
That is for sure.
Yeah.
So what can you tell us about Spike's history, Spike's story? I know Spike's been here a long time. He's been here Stovall and into this museum. So what's your connection with Spike?
Well, yes. Well, I cleaned Spike and repaired Spike. So I got to know Spike intimately, and inside and out. There were lining that was ripped from somebody sticking their foot in and, you know, sticking it into the lining. And Spike was very well made, very carefully made by a wonderful seamstress. And I think I had met her a long time ago, but anyway, I kind of inherited that. And every year I would get the two dinos and to the shop, and I'd clean them and repair them, and I did a lot of stuff with them.
So that cleaning has to be a challenge, and that's got to be done a certain way. How do you do that? I mean, I've seen those costumes. How do you clean those? You can't just stick it in the washer, right?
Now, Spike, you can. Spike is all, well, you said that Spike has been remodeled a little bit, so I don't know if Spike is washable anymore. But the person that made Spike originally, it was an all cotton inside and out. The lining and everything was all cotton, and so.
But the headpiece, how do you clean the?
Well, just with the washcloth, and you know that. This was before the wonderful little sponges and things that we have now that you can buy to clean things. But so it's mostly, you know, washcloth and so. But they sometimes would develop a certain odor.
Eau de Dino, I suppose.
Eau de Dino, yes. And so that could be challenging to get rid of. And the way that you get rid of that is with vodka. You spray vodka on something, and it gets rid of the smell of human sweat. So, yeah.
Okay, well, that's a takeaway from this interview I didn't expect.
And I was told at the Costumers Association, I'd attended that every year, big convention. Well, they had two conventions basically, but anyway, one of them was the lady, giving tips, and she said, now this is a bottle of vodka, and this is what you will take to your store. It's a little spray thing, and you're to tell your employees that this is the odor-stopping liquid. You don't tell them that it's vodka, or they may give themselves a little spray. And then you take it home and you fill it, and then you bring it back. You don't necessarily bring the bottle of vodka to your costume shop. So
wise advice. Wise advice. So you mentioned Slash earlier. Take us back. Tell us about the birth of Slash.
Well, it's a complicated thing. Luckily, I was dealing mostly with Roberta. And so there wasn't this big committee that had to make all the decisions like there are with some mascots. You get a whole room full of people and they have to decide every little aspect. She could decide that herself, and she had some experience with using a mascot. And so she kind of knew what she wanted, and she wanted something that was a two-piece where the person wearing it could actually take the pants off and use the restroom, and not have one big thing that was very difficult to get out of. It's designed big enough so that you can wear one of those cooler vests that's underneath that has packets of ice to keep a person's body temperature down, and then I believe it has or had a fan inside the head to create some ventilation, and then there are two places on the side, and then the face mask that will get you enough air, and so we kind of did it that way. And also the feet are what's called parade feet, so they're not something that has a big sole underneath it. They fit over your own shoes, and that way a mascot can be safer, really. The person inside can be safer going up and down the stairs for one thing, but just walking across the room. They won't have this big thing that's kind of, flopping around. So we've tried to make everything, as stable as possible. And she kind of checked in, throughout the thing. And it took a while to find the right fabric that would be lizard-like, but, I guess not washable exactly, but more durable like that, and then the lining and.
I think the fabric is stunning. Just the texture, the sheen of it. Mm-hmm. That must have been fun to find, because that's really pretty. Well,
it took a while, and I think I bought the whole roll because I was nervous about it being discontinued or something, and I knew at some point. Well, usually what I would do with a mascot is make 2 pairs of feet and then 2 pairs of gloves. And I think I'm not sure that we did 2 pairs of feet for Slash, but we did 2 pairs of gloves. And that way, if you're hugging somebody who's just eaten some cotton candy, then you're not stuck with that all day on your hands. So
have you found that different ages, different people respond differently to the two? Respond differently to Spike? Respond differently to Slash? Have you noticed that?
Spike is like the baby of the family, and so he's much more cuddly, and Slash is Slash and has big white teeth, and so that's clearly something that somebody has to get over if they're a little kid. But I think the way that media has grown, that people the kids are a little more used to things that are somewhat scary, but not threatening, But I mean, Slash can be pretty threatening. He's got big claws. He's got big claws on his feet. So.
His size. And how did you come up with that idea of his head, getting his head on, that makes it so tall?
I had worked with several mascots that were based where the head was mounted on a backpack frame, and basically when you do that, you don't have to put anything around somebody's head. It doesn't. I made a mascot when I was first starting out that had a big foam head and it had a strap around the chin. And they took the woman that was wearing it over to the Lazy E Arena and put her on the stagecoach. And so she was jumping up and down and everything, and it basically did really bad damage to her neck. And I thought, I'm never going to do that again. I'm going to figure out a way that these can be balanced. And I attended the Costumers Association meeting every year. And one year we went to Orlando. And so we were at the Disney place where they construct all of their costumes. And so we could see on the inside of some of the mascot costumes there. And some of them were very bad and dangerous to wear, but because they would twist somebody's neck. But other ones, they had figured out a different way, and the way is to have it all mounted on the shoulders and then put up. And I did want the head higher and have the face panel there so that the person inside can look around and kind of know where they are. Because the rule with a mascot is that never gets transferred from one person to another is that you're only supposed to wear it for about 30 minutes at a time because it's too hot. And then the person is supposed to go to a private area and take the head off, not a public area and take the head off, because the crowd wants that illusion of that it's a character. And then the other aspect is just that you want to protect the person that's in the mascot suit, so you want somebody with them to kind of look around behind and make sure that nobody is taking their cotton candy and bopping them with it or something.
Stepping on their tail.
Or stepping on their tail or pulling their tail or all that kind of, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So you've been talking about what makes the Slash costume different. Mm-hmm. How about the care of it and the cleaning of it? Is it all, you just wipe it all off because the fabric is so different?
It's kind of a hand-done thing. It has, on some of the parts it has it's kind of a plastic beaded surface. And so that all was hand-stitched on. All of that is hand-stitched on. And it's hand-stitched on with upholstery thread, so it's solid, but it can come apart in little places. And so that was one of the things, is to check all of those little corners. It's cut out in these kind of shapes around different places on the costume. So all those little bits needed to be cared for before you start wiping it down. And you take your little brush that you do your nails with and scrub all around.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's worth it because it turns out the fabric is preserved, and I want things to last for a long time, and I think he has lasted for a long time.
Well, I do believe he has, since we're coming up on our 25th anniversary.
Yeah.
I think you did it right. It must have worked.
Yeah, I think we got Slash done maybe at the end of the first year or 6 months. Roberta was really hot to have another mascot. She liked the little mascot Spike, but she wanted something that was more terrifying and more that it would appeal to adults as well as children. So you've brought a lot of smiles to a lot of faces, made some wonderful memories for people in Norman, around the state, all of that. There are some discussions of possibly upgrading the mascot as we move
from the 25th anniversary
Oh, yeah.
into the future. What would your vision be? What would your suggestions be for the next phase of Spike or Slash? What would your suggestion be to as the museum moves forward?
Well, I would think something kind of in between the two of the big costume with the giant white teeth to some other animal, maybe not a softer animal, maybe an animal that is not so recognizable as a raptor, that can be more of an education tool to say, this is why this creature exists, and this is how it functions, and all that. So, I like something that just generates a whole lot of curiosity instead of you looking at it and say, oh, I know what that is, but to have it be something that you say, well, what is it, and how does it work, and how does it move, but I would say keep it to one person because just doing events and so forth, you don't want something that's like a horse costume with two people in it.
Good point. And then a mascot that's very inviting, enticing, inviting.
Yeah.
So the whole, you are curious and
that
come
maybe you can
explore
make
with
up a
me.
sound that it would make or something like that, rather than "arr."
I don't know, we like roar in the museum.
Right.
We like roars.